Eu queria fazer uma pergunta focada um pouco no contexto da sua resposta dada tanto a Vera quanto a Laura, relacionado à questão da agenda climática. O senhor enfatizou em ambas as respostas a questão da agenda climática e a gente está passando e tem discutido isso de forma muito intensa nos últimos anos. E a minha pergunta é se a velocidade com que os países estão respondendo a isso é adequada e se a direção também está adequada. E qual é a visão do senhor em relação a essa agenda? Essa é a principal agenda, a questão global, econômica, ou a gente tem outras questões a serem enfrentadas na mesma proporção de importância?
Well, let me say, I think it is key agenda. It's what we would say is existential. If we burn up, nothing else matters. So if we don't solve the climate change problem, it's going to be a real problem. Some conservatives talk about debt and the legacy of debt that we're leaving to our children. If we leave a planet that is not, in which we've ruined the planet that we live. We can't go to any other planet. If we have debt, we know how to restructure debt. We don't know how to go to another planet. So we have to live within our planetary boundaries. And, once we started modernization, the Industrial Revolution, we didn't know about the planetary boundaries then. And we started putting carbon into the atmosphere, more and more carbon. We didn't know the effects. But it was really interesting, an achievement of modern science. More than 100 years ago, a physicist, chemist, said that if you put these carbon in the atmosphere, it would lead to global warming. And his predictions were correct. It's a real achievement of science. You make a prediction on the basis of theory, and then you see that the effects are real. And unfortunately, in the last few years, we are really seeing the effects. So you ask, are they adequate? No, what we're doing is not adequate. There's an urgency here. We've been, there's an old expression of Nero fiddling while Rome burned. I feel like we're fiddling, and the world is burning. And we see it's not only a metaphor, the world is burning. We have wildfires everywhere. Mm-hmm. So to me, it's a first order of business. But I believe if we do it right, it can stimulate economic growth. I think what you did under Bolsonaro to the Amazon was not only bad for climate in the world, it was bad for climate in Brazil. And because evaporation from the Amazon affects rainfall in the rest of Brazil. Mm-hmm. So doing something about climate is good for Brazil, it's good for the globe, and one can design policies that respond to climate change that actually promote economic growth. In some ways, some of the things that you did early on here in Brazil, the development of biofuels was on this agenda before it became more fashionable. But you sort of lost the momentum in the last few years. And now, what I'm very excited about is President Lula is regaining and pushing the momentum. And it's really exciting to have Brazil going along this. Now, you asked, are there other items that need to be on the agenda? Yes, I think there are. I mean, obviously, inequality. But I see all of these as complementary. A bad environment affects the poorest countries and affects the poorest people in each country. So if we don't do something about the environment, including climate change, it will worsen inequality. And in the same way, the pandemic both exposed and exacerbated our inequalities. So it's really important to, if you're concerned about the inequality agenda, to do something about the environmental agenda. But I think we have to do more than that. You know, again, I always keep coming back to the United States because naturally it's the country I know best. One of the reasons that so many people I referred to, you know, more than 1 million people died in the United States was that we had a very poor health system.
Perfeito.
You would think as a rich country we would have good health, but we have among the advanced countries the lowest level of life expectancy and the highest level of disparities in life expectancies. Now, one of the countries that we had more deaths than, say, Brazil, but per capita you did better. You had more deaths. And that was because you too don't have an adequate public health care. You paid insufficient attention to some really big inequalities in your country. You have more inequalities. And so I think it's even more important that Brazil address these issues of inequality.